Hello, and welcome to Steve's Mixtapes. My guest mixer this week is a very patient man because he sent me his first draft of a mix before the trailer had even come out, although he has modified it several times as time has gone on. It's a really interesting mix. Unfortunately, it kept getting sort of bumped down the list because of appearances by the likes of David Quantick and Paul Hanley and various other full members. So apologies to him, but we got here at last. So welcome to Steve's Mixtapes, David Hughes.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great privilege and an honour to be amongst such exalted company as members of Sonic Youth in the Fall. I mean, crikey, who would have thought? But yeah, no, I really love what you're doing. And as we were just speaking beforehand, the way you're bringing ordinary punters in as well as, you know, superstars, rock legends. It's
Well, I've said that in a few sort of forums, is that, I really like the mixture of famous people. And as you yourself put it, Joe Public interviews, because everyone has a story to tell. I was speaking to somebody else from the Fall Forum, I should say. That's primarily how I know David. He's one of the moderators on the Fall Online Forum. But speaking to Ian McCulloch, not that one, the other night, who's a fellow member. And, you know, he's an interesting guy, worked for 36 years on the oil rigs in the North Sea. Everyone's got a story to tell, and as long as it involves music in that story, then I'm happy to have them on. So unusually for me, it's 10 o'clock in the morning where I am. Normally it's 8:30 on a Saturday night, and I've got a glass of wine in my hands. But it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I have a cup of coffee. But it's 7 in the evening where you are, because you're in Australia, David. Is that right?
That's correct. That's right. Yes.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you?
If you look at the map where Sydney is, and you keep heading south for about 2.5 hours, you get to a place called Jervis Bay, and I live on Jervis Bay. It's very nice. You coming from the same part of the world as I do, you will know about a place called Crimdon and those sort of northeast beaches, Blackhole Rocks. So I've come from those cool, dust-strewn beaches to these beautiful white
Well, I was
sands.
going to ask about that because, yes, I'm from your part. The bit of the coast I remember the best is Seaham, where we used to take our dog for a walk. Unlike me, you've kept your accent. Mine sort of disappeared. Although it might sort of start emerging as we go on with the interview. Because when I speak to my mum, it tends to come out. My wife always laughs at me because I'll be on the phone to my mum and I'll start saying, aye. But I can still speak fluent Geordie, and I have a little phrase that I use with colleagues to try and teach them how to speak Geordie. I don't know whether you've heard this. It's Jean-Paul Gaultier has broken the photocopy.
No, I didn't know that one, but I do know Hoya Hama here.
So how did you end up in Australia then?
Oh, I got transported for marrying an Australian. My wife's Australian. She was in the UK, and we met, and it's a long story. It was all to do with residencies and visas. It was easy for me to come to Australia than for her to stay in the UK. Okay. And Australia's been incredibly good to me.
Yeah. Well, whenever I speak to Ian Forth from the Sombrero Fallout, which we'll come back to later on, he always extols the virtue of Melbourne, which seems to be a particularly good city, a big thriving music and coffee culture. He always describes it as. Right. Well, let's get to your choices. To hit the ground running, you've gone for the Chameleons. You are the third person, I think, to choose a Chameleon song, and the second one to choose something from this album. Ding, quite a while back, chose. They've reappeared, haven't they, Chameleons? He chose Where Are You, the new song. But you've gone back to 1983.
Yeah. Well, he asked for something that, hit the ground running, and I think, the opening track to their first album is, it ticks all of those boxes. It's just big, it's anthemic, it's loud. It's something you can, if you're in the crowd seeing them, you can really throw yourself into, and the whole show gets going. I've seen them a few times. First time I saw them was in 1982 at the Middleton Town Hall. It was the perfect Chameleons. Drinking Lee's bitter. We got our heads kicked in. It was just mad. It was the most violent show I've ever seen. But they stuck with me so much after that night. I think the albums, there's sort of a diminishing returns for me. Some people like the later stuff. I find them a bit proggy and a little bit overindulgent. But Script of the Bridge is just, it's masterful, and it got remastered a few years ago. So because it was a lot of music on a single disc. So it used to sound quite weedy when you heard it on a decent hi-fi, but when it got remastered into digital media, they really sort of filled it out with all the bass and the drums, and the cymbals sort of diminished a bit. So yeah, I just love that album. I still love it, but I think if you want something to get things going, you can't do better than Don't Fall.
The Chameleons with Don't Fall from 1983's Script of the Bridge. Right, David, my usual question for mixers is, have you always habitually been somebody for making compilations and mixtapes, etc.?
Absolutely not. When I bought records, it used to say on the back, "Home taping is killing music," and I was terrified that by the time I got to 61, there would be no more music to listen to because I'd have killed it with my home taping. So no, that's. But no, I haven't been. I would do the odd one, but definitely not habitually. I might have received more than I've made. I'm very much an album sort of person, right. Taking songs at random from different records and putting them together. It never appealed to me, so I'd rather listen to a whole album from start to finish, like you'd read a book, sequentially, chapters. So I don't mind if there's a dodgy track in the middle of it, because that's part of the narrative. So when I was trying to woo young women, I would give them things like the Velvet Underground live in 1969, two sides of a C90, and say, you gotta listen to this. So no, I'm not a compilation tape, as it would have been called when we were lads. No, they weren't part of my life. I was definitely start to finish.
And did you have a lot of success with your "Here's a Whole Velvet Underground" live album approach?
Temporarily.
Okay.
Temporarily, but my wife Rachel, she sort of got me back. She got me an Ed. She did an Ed Cooper thing and a Jeff Buckley on the other side. I wasn't so keen on the Jeff Buckley, but the Ed Cooper, I still like Ed Cooper.
Okay,
he was from the Saints, but his solo stuff's a bit more.
So, do you and her have much of a Venn diagram intersection?
She absolutely doesn't mind what I listen to. She never complains, even when I play The Fall. She's more Stones than the Beatles, but yeah, she doesn't like Tom Waits at all. Right. That's probably the line in the sand is Tom Waits.
Okay. But I love Tom Waits, as I know you do, but he's one of those artists you kind of understand why people might not be very keen.
Yes, I do, but I don't know how somebody can not like Tom Waits and still not mind The Fall.
Yeah, that is interesting. My wife dislikes both of them. Funny enough, we're going to be exploring that later tonight, because for the first time ever today, I'm doing 2 interviews in the same day. So I'm doing you this morning, and I'm doing her this evening. To take a long time to pin her down to 10 tracks, but more on that in another show. And in fact, confusingly, her show will go out before yours, because we're doing it for her birthday. So this sound very. But I've said frequently, doing the show is a little bit like being an episode of Doctor Who. You're never quite sure where in the timeline you are. Anyway, your something old choice, you've gone for something 1968, and this is interesting. This is one of the things I love about these mixes, is that you've chosen a song for the context as much as the song itself, which I quite like. Because, funny enough, the first thing I do with these things is I stick the playlist on in the background, and sort of just to get familiar with it. And I make a few notes here and there. And I wrote something along the lines of fairly charming, but a bit twee. And actually, when I look back at the notes you sent me, twee is exactly the word you've used. But there's a bit of a story behind this choice.
I was listening to a music podcast, and there's she's had a bit of a revival. So this was a jazz singer in the 60s. Apparently she heard, Margot Gurian, she heard Pet Sounds, and it sort of transformed how she saw herself as an artist. And she recorded this album, which name I can't remember. But the song,
it's a title track you've chosen.
Okay, yeah. But the reason I chose this is, I heard it just before Christmas, and like most of us, we've got Google Photos blasting us with memories. Not long before I went out to walk my dog, which is when I do most of my listening, Google had been showing me all these. Remember this day 16 years ago. So I was looking back and the kids were little, and it was coming up to Christmas, so there's lots of stuff. You're going to all the Christmas things at school, and I was just remembering how complicated that time is. You're working, you're building your career. There's never enough time. There's never enough money. You're balancing your shifts with your wife's shifts, and your kids. They're not always well behaved. So it's not always a pleasurable experience being the parent of young children. But there's lots of pictures now, which there weren't of my childhood, because cameras were a luxury item, and taking photographs wasn't something that was done routinely, like we just snap. So I'd been looking at these pictures, and of course you only take pictures mostly of the happy times. So I was feeling nostalgic, and I was feeling so relieved I'd taken these pictures, because I was, I can remember feeling sort of, oh God, how are we going to get through this? How are we going to do this? But then you see the pictures of the kids doing their Christmas plays or at the parties or whatever. And then I'm walking on the beach with my dog and I hear this song, and it just hit me like a punch. I said, well, that song completely captured how I was feeling at that moment, pretty much to the minute. So I don't care for the song very much. It's very twee. The whole album's it's a complicated album. I don't know if you've listened to it. The music arrangements sound a bit like Kevin Ayers, but then you've got this female Belle and Sebastian, soft, dreamy, hippie kind of voice lilting through it. Some people will just love it, but it's not really my cup of tea. But I chose this specifically because at the time I was writing the list, that was a song that had really affected me.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I remember very well. This was back in the late 90s, early 2000s for me, having kids and building your career and getting promotions, and life is a never ending grind, isn't it? Almost sometimes, but of course I've thrown myself back into that world now.
Crazy man.
but it's interesting with the photographs thing. I now, because all my older ones, well, I've got one who's 17 in the sixth form, and all the others are in their 20s. I probably have more photographs of the twins now than the older ones put together, because every day, wherever you are, you get your phone out and you snap. So, and it's, when in the days when you used to actually get a camera out to do something, and that seems, that's alien to anybody under 25, isn't it? The whole notion. Of that. I did give a quick listen to that. I think I've only been through it once. It kind of sounds, because it was God Only Knows, wasn't it, that she heard, and she had a live check, because she had quite a career in jazz. Her composition's been recorded by Cass Elliot, Glenn Campbell, Harry Belafonte. She used to work with people like Max Roach and stuff like that. But it kind of felt a bit like, almost a bit planned by committee. Like, I've heard this, I want to capture this, and But anyway, let's see what people think. From the album of the same name from 1968, this is Margot Gurriant with "Take a Picture."
Sunny days, happy times. Take a picture so we can remember the way it feels to love each other, just in case of cloudy days to come. See the smile on my face. Take a picture so we can remember the things you do to make me smile this way. Ask a stranger to take a picture. We should have one side by side. Look at me and say I love you. Aren't I the picture of pride? Sunny days, happy times. Take a picture so we can remember the things we share, the dreams we're dreaming of. Come and take a picture of love.
Okay, on to the something new choice. Now, I have another standard question, David, as you will know, which is to what extent people attempt to keep up with the incredibly, stupidly vast amount of music that comes out on a daily basis. Now, on the Fall Online forum, there's a Best Albums of the Year thread, which I find really helpful, actually. It's quite good to go back over it and remind yourself what's going on the year. And you're quite a regular contributor to that. So how do you come across things?
Well, firstly, when do we get a chance to listen to music anymore? There's so many podcasts. I've got your podcast, the Sombrero Fallout podcast, the Guardian Football Weekly podcast, the Rest is History podcast. There's not much time for listening to music at all. But my main sources for new things are that thread that you specifically mentioned. I find it's very good, and I tend to now bookmark my post and then repeat it so I can keep tabs, because by the time November comes, you can't remember what you liked in February. So I find that's a good resource for me to refresh my memory. But how do I get new stuff? Well, from other people on there. I've been listening to the NPR, the American Public Radio podcast, All Songs Considered, since about 2007. With Bob Boylan and Robin Hilton used to do it. Bob's retired now. And that's really kept me in tune, I think, with a lot of new stuff. They've tended to change the demographic they're aiming at. They're looking for a younger audience in recent times, so there's a lot more hip-hop, dancey, a lot more Latino music, Mexican, Puerto Rican. So they're trying to get that demographic in as well. But they've got really insightful music journalists, critics. Robin Hilton is such a great music journalist. And Ann Powers, I so respect her opinions. They can be a bit gushing and American, but that's probably the best source. And of course, Sombrero Fallout. Ian's got a good combination of putting the classics in, but he always keeps it fresh with something new.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to Sombrero Fallout shortly. But so the one you've gone for is and I wasn't particularly familiar with them. I heard you mention them. So this is Clipping, who the hip hop outfit from LA, I think. Yeah. I kept changing this one because obviously it's new. And originally when I did my list, I picked a song by Cindy Lee, I think, but then it was about 18 months old by now. Yeah. And Martin Brammer had chosen one anyway. And then I had a Valerie June track. But I landed on this just because I've been listening to this album a bit recently. I don't know what genre this is. It's got its roots very much in hip hop and rap, but there's a lot of electro stuff there. These bands and similar bands like Dalek and Billy Woods, I hear shoegaze, I hear like Loveless, My Bloody Valentine in it sometimes. There's such dense sonics within the music. The song you've gone for, the sort of chorusy bit, if you like, put me in mind of sort of the early 90s, sort of Arrested Development, that sort of thing.
I think I picked this one just because it's probably the most accessible track on the album. But for all it's accessible, it doesn't mean it's not grim. It's a song in 3 acts or three chapters, and you descend deeper into this dystopia. But the melody's nice, and then at the end there's a little trick which sort of spins you around on you. You go, oh right, what happened there? But the clipping, and I'd say Dalek as well. They're so dense, some of these music, and these aren't the kind of bands and albums that I listen to a lot. But when I do, I really like it because like all great art, it takes you into somebody else's world temporarily. These aren't places I want to stay, but I'm glad to have a peek and then leave it. And Flipping and Quell Chris, that's another one who's good. The Billy Woods album Gollywog, that's really good. So I've ended up in this funny world listening to this music, which is so alien to my history, but it's good headphone music. I'm glad I don't smoke dope. It must make you totally paranoid.
Right, so let's hear it now. So this is Clipping, and it's called Keep Pushing.
When it all fell down, God bless the weight inflation when ounce must have just ate, cause them became pounds. Didn't hesitate, them break themselves down. Like them was late, couldn't wait to get out. Them spread all around the world, the fiends found them. Hopped in the pot, then begged to get drowned them. Wanna be sick, them bitches Munchausen. So let it whip. Living at the top of the syndrome, placebo. Get you repoed in the thin gold. Ain't worth shit when the skin gone and it been cold. And making money off of the impulse ain't nothing but sinful. But that need faith in where they do that at. The world is a wasteland, the state is a rat trap. Cheese and load the pack under the hood of the hatchback before you get snatched back. And everywhere you go, just keep on pushing dough. has been. Get up and push again. When it all went numb, they all followed suit, the juice was too dumb. It's all up to you, young blood, they knew none about what you do. The truth is you finna be one of them ones. History is so funny, it's only writ with ink that's on money. So take a drink and hit the track running. Don't need to think, the shit's in your bloodstream. Try to keep it posting the tempo, just cause it's automatic don't mean that it is simple. A pimp don't ever panic when a hoe is a nympho. You push so many keys that it's resembling Gitmo. Remember that place? Nobody else does. They like the pasty race so they could get buzzed. Making a dash today on to the next plug with enough cash to buy him out of the business. And everywhere you go, just keep on pushing dope. However hard it's been, get up and push again. When it all got killed, saw all the faces gracelessly tilt, saw all the places laced with green wilt. What a disgrace for all that they built. Well, what that got to do with your millions? If it ain't gold, get out of your feelings. Street got beef, that's why you put grills in. Show them teeth, then shoot up they buildings. That's what it do. Living at the end of the sentence, you run on with the commas and they won't even mention the Polican for quotes to send me an intervention. They split the cone and keep the cola rolling perfection. Break the law, well the work gotta stretch then. Ain't gotta sell the soft, give the work an erection. Then gotta get it off or end up in correction. Get it to every jerk in the section. And everywhere you go, just keep on pushing dope. However hard it's been, get up and push again. And if you feeling hurt, just keep on pushing work. Wherever you may roam, just keep on pushing on.
From the 2025 album Dead Channel Sky, that was clipping with Keep Pushing. Now, we've mentioned, David, Sombrero Fallout a couple of times, and I never missed an opportunity to plug it. It's a great podcast. It's not really a podcast, to be honest, as I frequently say. It's a good old-fashioned radio show, really, and quite John Peel-like in the way Ian, he's very avuncular, isn't he? And I like the way he puts a little bit of his family and friends' life in there, but not too much. It's never sort of mawkish or overly sentimental, but it's really, really nice. But yeah, so how did you come across it? I think I came across it via you, possibly.
I think maybe, but it was after Marky Smith died. I think The Guardian referenced it, or maybe about I think about that time, or maybe they were just reviewing some different podcasts. I definitely saw him name checked in the Guardian, and that was about the time Marky Smith died. So that was it. It's the good old Guardian pointed me to him, and I've been a dedicated listener. I never miss an episode, and I've caught up on nearly all of the back ones, and a regular contributor to his little family there that he's got running on the Facebook.
Yes. Well, as am I these days, and I do tend to where I get the time, particularly if I'm at home, not maybe so much if I'm away with work, but where I get the time, I make a few notes and make a few comments there. I haven't done last week's actually, although I must note to Ian, that like him, I'm the person that everyone asks to do the quiz because I like making the quiz and everybody else finds it a chore. Right. We have that in common. But one thing that nearly always happens is I think Ian and I have a fairly chunky Venn diagram intersection, but there are some outliers there. There's some stuff I like. There's maybe a bit more 70s rockish that he
Rod Stewart.
Yeah, Rod Stewart. No, I'll stand up for early Rod Stewart pre-sailing. I'll stand up for any of that. No problems whatsoever. But there's this song that you've chosen actually is almost emblematic of the sort of stuff that's often on Sombrero Fallout that I don't get on with. And in fact, I've got to be honest with you, David. You've chosen for your Something Borrowed choice a track that I don't like.
It's my pleasure.
I've never got on with Saint Etienne. It's not, and it's not that I am a Neil Young fan, but it's not that I think this cover is sacrilege. It's not really one of my particularly favourite Neil Young songs, anyway. But I just can't get on with this song, I'm afraid. But anyway, tell us why you've chosen it.
Oh, it evokes a sort of time and place for me. I was living in Frankfurt at the time, and when that Foxface Alpha came out, and I didn't have a lot of CDs because I was pretty mobile. That was one I ended up with on recommendation, and I played it a lot. And I didn't know it was a cover. I just knew this as the song, and it was some years after that I discovered it was a Neil Young song. And when I heard it, it sounded so weedy and devoid of middle. I thought, well, Saint Etienne filled all those gaps and turned it into something more relevant.
See, for me, they filled the gaps with that cheesy piano sound that was endemic in the late 80s, early 90s. That reminds me of being at sort of clubs and discos and stuff that I didn't really want to be at, that didn't serve any decent beer. But there we go. I mean, people could be their own judge. And lots of people at Saint Etienne, and you're never going to like everything that comes on. And I did like pretty much everything else on your list. So anyway, let's hear it now from Foxface Alpha. Well, it was actually a single first in 1990. This is Saint Etienne with Only Love Can Break Your Heart.
I was always thinking
Right, now, something that has cropped up a lot in these lists is people keep coming up with artists from my sort of mental list of people I've heard a few songs by, but think, one day I must sit down and listen to them properly. And you've definitely chosen one of those artists. So, do you want to tell us who it is and why you've chosen this particular song?
Yeah, I've chosen a song by Vic Chestnut called Isadora Duncan. I mean, like so many, I mean, you nearly had another Thelonious Monk track in here at this point, because when I did the original list, I took it very literally, something blues. So I went for one of these jazz bluesy. I think it was Ruby My Dear. But then I understood that people were interpreting blue to mean anything. And so I went from blue to melancholia. And I can think of few more melancholic stories and performers than Vic Chestnut. Adopted, complete dropout, crazy kid at school. He's 17. He's pissed. He crashes his car. He's paraplegic. His life seems to be over. He can barely do anything. And somehow he manages to relearn how to play the guitar with these completely spastic hands. And he's using a bicycle glove with a plectrum super glued on it. And he's got this bashed up old nylon string guitar. And he's just creating this incredibly beautiful music. If people aren't aware of him, just get on YouTube, and there's a beautiful Tiny Desk concert from the NPR people where he goes into the office and performs them. It's just so affecting. Why did I choose this song? Isadora Duncan. She was a dancer. I didn't know that till I heard this song.
I knew she was a dancer, but that was all pretty much I knew about it. But speaking of melancholy, I mean, she had a tragic life as well.
That's right. And her demise also came with a broken neck. Somebody had given her this very fashionable, expensive silk scarf, which she was wearing as she headed off on some roadster. It got caught in the wheel axle and wrenched her from the car, broke her neck and killed her. Yeah. So he's a paralyzed man singing about dreaming with a dancer who's died because of as a literal fashion victim. Years later, he takes his own life because his medical bills are unaffordable, and he dies on a Christmas Day. It's just the most blue thing I could think of, Steve.
Well, I'll add even more to that, because having looked her up, I discovered that she had 3 children, one of whom died shortly after childbirth, and the other 2 drowned when the car they were in crashed into the River Seine. So it's a choice full of tragedy.
It really is. It really is. Kirsten Hirsch has written a good book. It's just it's a quick, easy read. It's not. There's more biography of Vic in the introduction, who's written by somebody else. So she really captures vignettes of his life. They toured together and they lived together and shared a lot of time together. And it's called Don't Suck, Don't Die. And she really seems to capture the essence of him. He was a difficult man, really difficult, even before the accident. And he railed against it, I think. He was always doomed. But he left us this incredible legacy of music, and this track, I think, is probably my favorite. But I think you can dip in anywhere. Each album's slightly different, but you can dip in anywhere and find something in the Vic Chestnut catalog that'll soothe you.
Was a cafe that was not at all near here. She was a planning to diversify, and she sang I should do the same. So I whistled to her how I loved her the best, but she sang I can't believe you own this attitude. But with some ballet moves I removed her shoes, and I painted my lips to hers, and still she sang, I can't believe you own this attitude. She sang, I can't believe you own this attitude. Her beauty sleep, though I didn't want it to sound like that. Her mind was occupied, her hard coffee was cold by then as snow. She sang, my smile is more than pearly white, and my dreams are more than sang, my yellow eyes are more than mirrors, and my scarf is more than blue. And she sang, I can't believe you own this attitude. Yes, I sang, I can't believe you own this attitude. Her New Directions paper book and screamed, there is no shelter in the arts. She'd been crying all day, but now her eyes, they were brighter than the moon. And she sang, my smile is more than pearly white, and my dreams are more than sang, my yellow eyes are more than mirrors, and my scarf is more than blue. And she sang, I can't believe you own this attitude. I can't believe it, I can't believe you own this attitude. I can't believe it, I can't believe you own this attitude.
Isadora Duncan by Vic Chestnut from the album Little, released in 1990 and produced by Michael Stipe. I discovered when I was looking that up.
Yeah, I think he might have even financed it at some point as well. Yeah.
Right, moving on to Take It Down. Now, the song you've chosen, you're very particular about which version of this song as well. I'm sure you'll tell us why in a moment. But this is a song, if you're in your 50s, you may well have heard this song first at the cinema, particularly if you had any interest in David Bowie. And I remember going to the cinema to see this film and thinking that, well, I don't remember it being a great film. I remember being quite dull in places. It had quite an interesting ending, I seem to remember. But anyway, most of it I blotted out of my mind. The film I'm talking about is Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. But you were very particular about the version that you wanted of this.
Yeah, the Opus version, which is just his last release. He died not long ago of cancer, and before he died, he recorded this live studio album where it's just him sitting.
We should say who we're talking about as well.
Oh, sorry, Ryuichi Sakamoto, Yellow Magic Orchestra, lots of soundtracks. I love his soundtrack as well to The Last Emperor. But are you prone to earworms? Do you get earworms?
Yeah. But these days, they tend to be things like the wheels on the bus, though.
Oh, yes. Well, yes, you've got an excuse. I do too. And we were just talking about earworms at work recently. And it turns out not everybody has earworms. Oh, okay. In fact, when it turned out nobody else in the room, about 6 people had ever had earworms, I felt like a bit of a freak. So I'll get a song locked in my head and I can't switch it off. Yeah. I'd say the worst one for me is Cab It Up by The Fall. I'll get that opening guitar riff. It'll just get locked in and get in a loop. And I don't mind that because I like it. But when I heard this song, this version of Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence from the Opus thing, it is so sparse and so beautiful. it just got locked. It just got locked in my ear. And I had this was like my soundtrack for a good 2 or 3 weeks. And I loved every second of being able to carry this song with my own private Discman with me. So that's why I chose this.
I didn't realize some people were immune to the earworm thing. But then again, you find things like, I was quite an age before I discovered that most people, when they read, to some extent hear the words. You see what I mean? Whereas I don't at all, which is one of the reasons I'm a quick reader. So often I will find myself talking to somebody about a band, for example, I've listened to it for a while, and realize I have no idea how to pronounce the name because it's never occurred to me because I just read and recognize the word. So it's interesting how people's minds work. But yeah, my latest earworm that I've had constantly is the nighttime song that comes on the end of CBeebies about it's the end of a perfect day, and it's a quite sweet little tune, but I have it going round and around in my head. Anyway, from the ridiculous to the sublime.
Before we get on to it, the reason I chose this over the soundtrack one is it's just laden with those 80s synths, and it does bring back that traumatic memory of David Bowie's complete inability to act. You've got Tom Conti in that film, who I think is just, he's so good as he's struggling with a conflict between understanding the Japanese cultures and their brutality and that sort of almost ambivalence between them. Tom Conti's so good, and everybody thinks it's a David Bowie film, and it's not. It's a Tom Conti film. He's so good. Bowie's great in The Man Who Fell to Earth. Nobody could have done that as well, but whoever put him in this film. What was the thing?
I saw him in something. I've forgotten the guy. Christopher Priest book about the magicians. I forget what the actual book. Which looked quite good from the trailer, but it was a bit disappointing.
He plays Tesla.
He plays Tesla, yes. And bless him, I sat there thinking, David, I love David, and I love much of his work, not all of it, but much of his work. But David, you still, after all these years, can't even act. You can't even do a little cameo and just be you. Yeah. Anyway, so we touched on lots of other things, but as I say, let's get from the ridiculousness of the CBeebies Night song to the sublime Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, the version from Opus. My usual question when we get to the around the world choice is are you a bit of a traveller? Now, even more so perhaps than previous guests, because we have had some well-seasoned travellers on the show, both Gavin Morgan and Sally Hamilton, who are a couple. In fact, they've just been to Albania. They travel abroad 3 or 4 times. They've a year. They've just been on. Eric, who we know from the forum, he's a frequent traveller. But you are a really frequent traveller. You get itchy feet very easily. Is that right?
Oh, I'm planning 3 trips ahead. I'm going to Peru in October. But yeah, in 1989, it's one of those vivid memories. I was living in the Isle of Man in a bit of a rut, and I picked up. I was always a sucker for those Picador book carousels. Okay. You'd walk in the bookstore, and they were always there, sort of just as you walked in. And the Picador book covers were beautifully designed, so I would always just be drawn to them. And I picked up Songlines by Bruce Chatwin, and that edition had maybe a Fred Hughes painting. It's like the red scorched earth of the Australian desert with the sticks of the gum trees and the blue sky. That looks good. And I read that, and his thesis, I think, was like, we're nomads, and unless we're living a nomadic life, then we're not living a complete life. And I like the Margot Guryan song. It was the right thing at the right time. Okay. And within 2 or 3 months, I was in India with about £500, and I didn't come back for over 2 years. I financed myself teaching English in Taiwan, worked in sandwich shop in Vancouver. I worked on a sheep farm in Australia, and just kept moving until I came home. And I've never stopped traveling. And everybody who knows me knows 2 things about me: that I like the fall and I like to go to India. So I've probably spent about 3 years in India.
Yeah, blimey, that's quite. I don't think I'm living a very complete life by that definition, because I'm your polar opposite. I never go anywhere. Yep. We're going on our holidays in a day after tomorrow, and we're going to Llandudno, which is an hour and a half up the road.
You don't need a passport or a visa or a yellow fever vaccination for that.
No. In fact, I have been abroad 3 times since 1992, the last of which was in 2013. I'm not much of a traveller. I don't know. It's not like a conscious decision. I just find the whole idea a bit exhausting, really. My wife, who, as I mentioned before, who I'm interviewing later today, she's been getting around and about recently. She's been to Las Vegas, of all places, recently, and she went to Ibiza as well. But I stayed at home and looked after the kids. I'm quite the homebody.
Oh, well, you've got a few credits in the bank there.
Yes. Well, I did spend one of them going up to Manchester, where I did my first ever face-to-face interview with my good old friend Chris McAvoy, and I can't remember off the top of my head whether his show is going to be out before yours or not, so we're back in Doctor Who territory again. But I took advantage to go. Be interesting to see what that sounds like, because we did record it after spending an entire afternoon in the pub. So
that'd be great.
I haven't dared to listen back to it yet. Anyway, so it is an Indian song that you've chosen, and it has a particular story behind this as well.
Yeah, I was in the mid-90s, 94, 95. I was volunteering for an NGO called Calcutta Rescue in what's now Kolkata, a street clinic. And at that time, the big hit movie was called Mohra, and this was the Tu Cheez Badi Hai Must was the hit song, and you could not escape it. Every shop you went into, every bus you went onto, you just heard this song everywhere. And I went to see the film. It was about 4 hours long. I have no idea what happened. It was all in Hindi. There were no subtitles. They would do all of the the Bollywood things, where suddenly you'd find yourself in Kashmir and suddenly you'd be somewhere else. It's great fun. It's sort of like a spectator sport, almost, going to the cinema in those times in India, because the crowd would clap and sing along with the hit songs. So it was a great experience. But the reason I specifically chose this song is last year I was in Himachal Pradesh, in the Himalayas in North India, and on a bus, windy mountain roads, very different to Calcutta. And this song came on, somebody's Spotify algorithmic playlist, and it just transformed me. It took me straight back to the hot, humid, sitting on the buses in Calcutta. And one of the things I always remember, I'd be on there, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, it's already hot and humid, and everybody's jam-packed in, and all these little Bengali men would be there with a perfectly combed hair and their little pencil mustaches, and their shirts were absolutely white and pressed. And I think, how can you look this elegant and smart when I feel already like I'm just just grimy and slovenly. So it was the way that song just switched. So the music's like a time machine, isn't it? Yeah. And that's what it did. It flicked that switch and it took me straight back. This song, it sort of overstays its welcome because it's a soundtrack. It's about 6 or 7 minutes long.
Edit it down a little bit, I think.
That's a good idea. If you watch it on YouTube with the visuals, I mean, it's Bollywood on a stick. It's got the chubby gangsters, the big dance moves and everything. It's got everything. So, people get, 2 or 3 minutes, still get the vibe, and they can follow it up if they want.
Right, on to left of centre. Now, from time to time, there are a few sort of radio websites and stuff I listen to. I don't know if you've ever heard of Fluid Radio is a good example of one of them. I'll put a link to that on the website as well. That play these sort of, I don't know, how would you describe it? Avant folk, experimental, things with lots of little tinkling keyboards and bits of guitar and voice samples and very atmospheric. It's the sort of thing I sometimes put on for a bit of background, perhaps when I want sort of a quiet musical backdrop for what I'm doing. And this song that you've chosen for your left of centre choice reminds me very much of that. It's not an artist I've heard of. Svitlana Nyanio. Is that right?
Could be. She's Ukrainian. So could have been an around the world one as well. Yeah. I heard this on the Sombrero Fallout podcast. Ian should be paying you for these promotions.
He should.
I heard all of this and I just loved it. It's entrancing, and I went straight off to Bandcamp when I got back off the beach with my dog, and I bought it. There's only about 6 tracks on the album, and they're just episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and they're all of a type. They're all like this vampire fever dream cabaret thing. There's like the soundtrack to some ephemeral film that you can't quite get your head around, and I just find it such lovely music to listen to.
It has that sort of distinctive piano sound that you get a lot in this genre of music. Yeah. It feels like a very old upright piano with just a tape recorder stuck on top of it. You know, that quiet. Yeah. You can almost hear the fingers on the keys. You can hear the hammers on the strings. So I really like this, and this is the sort of thing I do time to time listen to. So it's episode.
It does worry me that I think there's the Simon Pegg thing spaced, and they've got the crazy artist who lives downstairs, and sometimes some of his avant-garde performance art is soundtracked to pianos like this, which it's a fine line.
All right, this is episode 3 from Transylvania Smile, and this, as I say, is Svitlana Nyanio. From the actually, I got the album title wrong because the album, I confused myself with my notes here. The album is called Transylvania Smile 1994, but it was released in 2023. Confused.
I think it was re-released. It was.
Right.
I think that's where it was recorded, and then it got lost or archived, and then was rediscovered.
I also discovered about her. She was previously a member of the Kiev experimental group Kukobila Smrt, which means literally sugar white death. I can't say I've heard anything by sugar white death, but it sounds like the sort of thing I might like.
It does. Yeah. Okay, if I've got some time on my hands.
On to your wild card. Now, again, you've chosen a genre that you perhaps don't listen to a lot yourself. So there's a bit of folk we've got. I wasn't familiar with the singer. He's from Somerset. He's called Reg. Again, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Muros, is that how you say it?
I would go for Muros or Muros. Yes, close enough.
And it's from an album. It's a concept album, I guess. In a way, it's all about the slave trade.
It is. It is. I don't know quite how this ended up on my Bandcamp feed. Maybe because I'd been buying some James Yorkston and must have thought, oh, he's a sucker for some folk music. And a lot of his stuff is very straight up folk, I think. But this one's interesting to me for two reasons. One, he investigates the slave trade, and he's never preachy about it, but he tells the stories. And as well as doing that, he quite often introduces African voices to the music. So there'll be African rhythms or literal voices or instrumentation, which augments it and makes it take. So you've got the very standard English folk tradition with this other thing going on, and it just works. So the sounds complement each other so well, and he's singing beautifully, and he's telling these awful stories. At the time, I'd been listening to the William Dalrymple, Anita and podcast Empire, which was about the slave trade. So again, it was the reason I picked this was because it just sort of it was a wild card. I don't listen to folk music, so that's why what I thought the wild card meant.
Yeah, it does. Well, I mean, people can throw something into left of centre that's left of centre for them, but for the wild card, that's a good choice. It's interesting you mentioned about the fact that there's like an African contribution to it. It's not just from the white man's perspective, isn't it? Because I don't know whether you're aware or listeners are, but I'm a history teacher by trade. I was a history teacher for 20 years. And I still go into schools as part of my work, and the way that the slave trade, which virtually every school does the slave trade as part of the syllabus, and the way that it's taught really irritates me quite a lot, because it's told very much from the perspective. Yes, they do talk about the atrocities of the Middle Passage and so on, but it's very much from the white hero, William Wilberforce, etc. Fighting to abolish the slave trade and so on, which is, whilst those guys played a part. I mean, the real reason most Western societies gave up, I'm getting on my soapbox here, I'm afraid, gave up slavery, is it became less economically viable. And a lot of the black contributions to the abolition of slavery are forgotten. So it was nice to see. Listen to the album. I liked the way he's done that in a more balanced and nuanced kind of way than you often get. Well, pity the poor slaves, etc., etc. So right. I'll step down from my soapbox and play the song.
I'm up there with you.
I'll step down from my soapbox and play the song. This is Reg Muros, and I Bought Myself an African.
My father always told me, son, be smart. Buy yourself an African to pull that heavy cart. My father always said, son, use your brain. Buy yourself an African to cut your sugar cane. My father was a Bristol man by trade. In sugar and molasses there were fortunes to be made. To gain a place in high society, a man must grow his interest in this golden industry.
We headed for the coast of Senegal, with copper cloth and gunpowder, pretty beads and wool. Then southward to the port of Calabar, where the smell of death hangs heavy, and tobacco smoke and tar. And I found myself in Africa. We parted with the Barbary corsair, his dagger on his waist, and on his face the blackest hair. The captain said the devil's in that man, but God was on our side, we'd be guided by his hand. And I bought myself an African. If Satan owned the cursed barbarian, if God's with us, then who stands with the wretched African? Abandoned by all saints and gods he seemed, and cast into some nightmare, some forsaken spirit dreamed. And I bought myself an African queen. And so the day went on, and by the end I'd brought 200 women folk, and girls and boys and men. The captain said, these bodies that you see, think on them as chattels, like some cheap commodity. And I bought another African slave. Their purpose is to labor for your need, sanctioned by His Holiness, by royalty decree. And it's the right of each good Englishman to keep by your protection and to govern by your hand. So I bought myself an I bought myself an African.
We're heading towards your finale track, and I think you had something else originally for this.
I did. My first thought was Driving Saturday by that famous actor.
Yes.
Yeah. But it just wasn't quite big enough. So once I realized I had a bit of time on my hand, I thought, well, what can be bigger than Bowie? And I went for Stevie Wonder, Sir Duke, because it's got everything, hasn't it?
You could have chosen something from that same Bowie album. I mean, Time might have made a nice finale.
Yes,
that's quite and would have involved the first appearance of the word wanking.
Yes,
on the show. But anyway, let's
too late. You've just done it.
Oh yes, I have. Yes. Well, it was. I don't know why it reminded me. It was interesting to see. I had lined up a question for Thurston Moore about living in Britain. Had he affected any Britishisms?
Oh yes.
Before I even got there, he used the expression "wanky" and "pissed off."
Yeah, I just listened to it just a couple of days ago. Yes, so he's amalgamating well.
Yeah. So Stevie Wonder, yes. Now I remember this. So I would have been 7 when this came out, and I remember it being on the radio. I remember being confused by it, as I was by quite a few songs in those days, because the title wasn't prominently in the song. Like you, as a kid, that you always used to confuse and worry me. It's like Bohemian Rhapsody. For years and years, I thought that was 2 different songs, and I couldn't understand on Top of the Pops why they always play these 2 songs one after the other. But yeah, so it confused me. But yeah, it's a great song, and I think you put in your notes about if you don't find your toe tapping to this, there's probably no hope for you.
Yeah. Yeah, but I specifically chose this because it's for a long time. You can see now I listen to a lot of stuff, but for a long time, when was this? 1976. So I was just coming out of listening to things like Wishbone Ash and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, and just discovering the Pistols and the Clash were just coming. So I was just in that transition phase. And my dad came back from a work trip and he gave me the cassette of this album, which was bore no relation to any of the music that was in my world. And I loved it. And I still love it just as much. And, you know, Steve, I think he plays drums on this. If not, he plays drums on the album. The band are just phenomenal. The horns are just, they're so good. And he's singing about people who make music and love making music. It's just such a celebration of music.
There's an effervescent joy throughout the whole thing, and it's interesting. You mentioned one thing that struck out for me because I've had it on in the car in particular a few times in the last few days. It struck me the bass playing on it. I have no idea who the bass player is, but the bass playing is fantastic. I mean, that may well be him as well. You never know. But he's been touring recently. I know. When I was in Cardiff with work recently, he was playing there, and a few of my colleagues went to see him and said he was absolutely incredible. And I don't know what age he's now. He must be in his 80s, is he?
Close enough, I think. Yeah. It's
Incredible.
interesting you say about the bass because I almost chose "I Wish" off the same album, and that starts with that really, really fantastic walking bass line. Dum, 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 dum. So the bass on that album is very, very strong. That just missed out by a hair's breadth.
Yeah. Okay. And a song, of course, which you'll remember vividly is from that incredibly hot and dry summer of 1976. Yeah, I remember all the grass being brown and the clouds of ladybirds and all the rest of it.
Yes.
Anyway, so as a bit of a remedy, because when we got to Your Something Blue and Big Chestnut, we sort of delved into deep bits of tragedy and sadness. So as a proper antidote to this, feel yourself uplifted by Stevie Wonder with Sir Duke. Sir Duke, of course, by Stevie Wonder from Songs in the Key of Life from 1976. So we've reached the end of your playlist, David. Thanks very much for that. Did you enjoy putting it together? You've had a long time to cogitate over it.
I had a long time, and look, when you've run out of guests, ask me back, because I could easily do another one and another one and another one.
You're not the first person to say that, but yeah, it would be nice. In fact, I have floated the idea with Ian. Ian really ought to be paying me royalties on this show, shouldn't he? Maybe having him back at some point. A bit of a cunning plan with how we might do it, but we'll see how we get on. I'll leave that there.
No, it's really nice, and I like the prescriptive format. It's not just play 10 songs you like. You've got to delve a little bit, and so they're not my favorite songs, but they're the songs which I felt met the assignment.
Yeah, and I think they met the assignment very well. Thanks for coming on, David. Hope you enjoyed it.
It's been a great pleasure.